It's election day.
Welcome to a live broadcast of TVM's 2016 election coverage. I'm Alex Widener.
And I'm Chrissy O'Neill. Tonight we're broadcasting live from Marywood-University as East Coast polls close and election results come in.
Throughout tonight's broadcast, we will be updating you with live election results as well as talking with members of the Marywood community to see what their views are on the election. Later tonight, we will be sitting down with Marywood-University President Sister Mary Persico to discuss both candidates' campaigns. Later, we'll be hearing from Marywood professors as well as the Marywood Student Government Association about their thoughts on both Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton and Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump. As the results come in, we will be talking with student panelists to hear what they think are the most important issues this election season.
Throughout the night, we will be referring to a map of the United States to see which candidates will win each state. As poll results come in, states will change color as Clinton and Trump are declared winners for each state. The states where Trump wins will turn red, and the states where Clinton wins will turn blue. We'll be updating this map periodically throughout the night.
All right, so we're going to have to go to a live update right now. So according to CNN, Donald Trump will carry the wins for Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, and South Carolina. Republicans have won Kentucky in every election cycle since 1996, and Indiana is the home state of vice presidential candidate Mike Pence on the Trump ticket. Hillary Clinton has won the state of Vermont and will claim all three of its electoral votes. Other states such as Florida, Virginia, and Georgia are too close to call as of yet. Today is Election Day in America, and voters across the U.S. have been heading to the polls since early this morning. East Coast polls are just beginning to close as we pass the 8 o'clock hour. The 2016 election has proven to be a divisive and historic time in American history. TVM's Rachel Looker brings us highlights from the race and a recap on both Clinton and Trump's campaign.
In America, and today, voters will select the next president of the United States.
The 2016 presidential election is coming to a close as voters decide between Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton and Republican candidate Donald Trump to determine who will occupy the White House for the next 4 years.
This election has been unlike many others, with many firsts. If Clinton wins, she will be the first female president, and if Trump wins, he will be the first candidate whose background is more focused in business than politics. Both Clinton and Trump battled other candidates in the primaries and faced tough campaigns against their opponents. Clinton campaigned against Senator Bernie Sanders, with both candidates fighting for millennial votes.
Most consequential elections in the modern history of this country.
The Republican Party was more crowded as Trump battled against 17 other opponents, including U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, Governor of Ohio John Kasich, U.S. Senator Marco Rubio, and others. Clinton and Trump are also up against third-party candidates, with the most notable as Green Party candidate Jill Stein and Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson. Candidates debated over many issues throughout the election season, with the most notable being immigration, taxes, healthcare, and stances on minorities. Throughout the election season, the campaign was plagued by many scandals involving both presidential candidates. A major roadblock in the Clinton campaign was her use of a private email server when she served as Secretary of State. Clinton used the private email server for official government communications. Some members of the government think Clinton's use of a private email server violates government regulations, causing this case to be investigated by the FBI.
Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information.
On the other side of party lines, many of Trump's comments throughout the election have been controversial to voters. Trump's treatment of the press, disrespectful comments about women, views on immigration, and plan to ban all Muslims were turnoffs for many voters.
Hillary's got a passion, and Donald Trump has a passion. I'll give him credit. He has a passion. Now, the problem is the passion is Donald J. Trump. It's not families and kids. It's not helping others. It's Donald J. Trump.
Regardless of the controversies that took place during both candidates' campaigns, the 2016 presidential election will leave a significant mark on the history of the United States.
From Washington, D.C., I'm Rachel Looker for TVM-News.
Coming up later this hour, University President Sister Mary Persico will be with us to talk. We'll be right back after the short break.
Pennsylvania has served as a key location for political candidates to hold rallies.
Just four
From
brothers who
speaking
hate
at high
bullies
school arenas,
and love
both
this city.
the Democrat and Republican parties have made appearances. During the primaries, there were many different candidates who came to the area, including Bernie Sanders and Ted Cruz. Sanders visited Scranton during the primary season, as well as this fall to campaign.
Gear up, guys.
Scranton High School in early October, Sanders criticized Trump's attitude and discussed the importance of
Open up your
voting
books
on
to page
election day.
360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
Inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at
Democrat
getschool.com.
presidential candidate Hillary Clinton and Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump both made multiple appearances in the area. Vice President Joe Biden and Nancy Clinton has moved to the area.
I should be fine.
His family had lived in Scranton for generations. Scranton went into an economic decline when Biden was 10 years
turns
old,
out,
which
buzz driving
caused
and
his
drunk
father
driving,
to
they're the
relocate
same
the family
thing,
to find
and it
work.
costs around
Living in Scranton in a middle-class
So not
family,
worth it.
Biden can relate to other middle-class individuals.
About the things that matter to you. A job, being treated with dignity. Think about whether or not you're able to live a middle-class life. My definition of middle class is not a number. I have a lot of brilliant economists working for me. They'll say it's $51,200 for 50 people. It's not. It's an idea.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your neighborhood.
Means you can send your kid to a local
To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
And if they do well, you can get into college.
Sure can be found anywhere, but the best place to
About being able to take care of your geriatric. What are you, superheroes?
Just four brothers who hate bullies and love this city.
Democrat presidential candidate Hillary Clinton also has roots in the area. Her father was born and raised in Scranton and spent her summers in the
Open up
Pocono
your books to
Mountains.
page 360.
Her daughter Chelsea Clinton visited the area to campaign for her mother and spread her mother's message.
You gotta
of
believe in
providing
yourself.
quality
Don't ever play
education for
yourself.
children.
The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at getschool.com.
And it meant so much to me today to see the Marywood. So clearly this is a very special place.
How many did you have?
Every
I should be
vote matters.
fine. Should be.
And
You want to step
so,
out of the vehicle for me?
although you'll probably see a lot of my family here in Pennsylvania,
See ya,
probably
buddy.
here in Scranton and the
Good luck.
area. You know,
So
I'm
it
trying to
turns
talk to as
out,
many
buzz
people as I
driving and
can.
drunk driving, they're the same
Chelsea
thing.
said the
And it
Scranton
costs
area
around
would see other members of her family.
So not worth it.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to TVM's 2016 election coverage. Pennsylvania has proven to be an important battleground state in this election as candidates from both parties have been campaigning in the Scranton area during much of 2016. The Clinton campaign was the first to come to town, sending former president and future first gentleman hopeful Bill Clinton to visit Scranton High School back in April. The majority of other campaigns quickly followed suit, and Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, Bernie Sanders, and Hillary Clinton herself visited the area. TVM's Caitlin Korjeski investigated the importance of the Scranton area during this election.
Scranton, Pennsylvania has served as a key location for political candidates to hold rallies. From speaking at high schools to arenas, both the Democrat and Republican parties have made appearances. During the primaries, there were many different candidates who came to the area, including Bernie Sanders and Ted Cruz. Sanders visited Scranton during the primary season, as well as this fall to campaign for Clinton. At Scranton High School in early October, Sanders criticized Trump's attitude and discussed the importance of voting on Election Day.
I believe in democracy. I know because the truth is that this is the lasting now.
Cruz also campaigned during the primary season at the Radisson-Lackawanna Station Hotel last April. Cruz talked about the important role Pennsylvania plays in the election. Democrat presidential candidate Hillary Clinton and Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump both made multiple appearances in the area. Vice President Joe Biden campaigned for Clinton and has roots to the area. His family had lived in Scranton for generations. Scranton went into an economic decline when Biden was 10 years old, which caused his father to relocate the family to find work. Living in Scranton in a middle-class family, Biden can relate to other middle-class individuals.
Think about the things that matter to you. A job, being treated with dignity. Think about whether or not you're able to live a middle-class life. My definition of middle class is not a number. I have a lot of brilliant economists work for me. They'll say it's $51,200 or $53,400. It's not. It's an ideal. To be middle class means you can send your kid to a local park and know they'll come home safely. It means being able to send them to a high school, and if they do well, you can get them to college. Being able to own your own home and not have to rent it. But being able to take care of your geriatric mom or dad, and the other one passes, and hope your children never have to take care of you. That's how we were raised. That's how we were raised. That's who we are.
Democrat presidential candidate Hillary Clinton also has roots to the area. Her father was born and raised in Scranton, and she spent her summers in the Pocono Mountains. Her daughter, Chelsea Clinton, visited the area to campaign for her mother and spread her mother's message about providing quality education for children.
It's clearly so important to my family. I grew up on stories of my mom spending summers at Lake Winona and around Scranton, the games of pinochle they would play on my grandfather's kind of childhood home's porch. So clearly on a personal level, it's hugely important, and it meant so much to me today to see the man who takes care of my grandfather, whom I called my Pop-Pop's grave. So clearly this is a very special place for my family. And I was raised to believe that every vote matters. And so although you'll probably see a lot of my family here in Pennsylvania and probably here in Scranton and the area, I'm just going to talk to as many people as I can of all ages.
Chelsea said the Scranton area would see other members of her family. Chelsea was right when former President Bill Clinton made an appearance at Scranton High School last April. Bill emphasized the importance of creating jobs, reworking the healthcare system, and providing affordable schooling. On the other side of party lines, Trump visited Scranton during the primary and general elections, even visiting Lackawanna Community College the day before Election Day. He visited the Mohegan Sun Arena last spring with an estimated 10,000 attendees at the rally. Even third-party candidate Jill Stein visited Wilkes University this fall to campaign as the Green Party candidate. Stein spoke about climate crisis, police violence, immigration, and focused on the Dakota Access Pipeline. With all of the candidates' appearances in the area, Scranton and the state of Pennsylvania are important pit stops along the campaign trail. For TVM News, I'm Caitlin Korjeski.
least 3 times in the last 2 months, including last night's. However, TVM's Caitlin Korjeski spoke to supporters outside of last night's Trump event at Lackawanna College.
The night before America would vote for their next president, Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump held a rally at Lackawanna College. TVM-News asked attendees why they support Trump.
I am so for his policies now. I am for building a wall. I am for the business end of it. I mean, he didn't pay taxes, but that's the way the laws are. Okay, he fell down, he, went bankrupt, like a lot of people did in Atlantic City. But look what he did, he built himself back up.
I like Donald Trump because of his jobs plan, his overall message for Americans, how he has policies that will actually bring jobs back, not just continue the policies that are already broken.
Trump supporters also explained what they dislike about Hillary Clinton.
For years, there's been shady dealings surrounding them, even when Bill was in office, and he at least had a likable personality. She's just very shrill and puts me off. There's actually nothing that I like about Hillary.
She left a ton of our soldiers and our personnel to die over in Benghazi, and that's just that doesn't rest well with me. And that's something that Donald Trump has given up so many things in his life because he loves his country so much and wants to save it, that speaks volumes to me.
No matter whom the American people vote for, every vote is important.
It's our lives, especially a college student. This is our lives. These are our next 4 years, our next 40 years. And being the first time that we can actually vote, why not be a part of it? Don't complain if you don't like it, if you didn't try to change it.
For TVM News, I'm Caitlin Korjeski.
Well, the race for Pennsylvania's U.S. Senate seat is one of 9 competitive battleground races of 2016. This race could determine which party controls the upper chamber after the November 8th general election. Republican incumbent Pat Toomey, who began serving in the Senate in 2011, is up against Democrat Katie McGinty, Libertarian Edward Clifford, and write-in candidate Everett Stern. The Senate seat has changed party control 12 times. In the Real Clear Politics average poll, incumbent Pat Toomey has a 1.8% lead over Democrat Katie McGinty. Toomey has managed to keep a close race with McGinty and has run a campaign separate from Donald Trump's, even withholding who he's going to vote for on Election Day. Clinton campaigned with McGinty in October and criticized Toomey for not rejecting Donald Trump as his party's nominee.
McGinty was also present and played an important role in 2 of the Clinton campaign events held in the NEPA region. Bernie Sanders campaigned for Secretary Clinton in October at Scranton High School, where McGinty introduced him. McGinty's speech centered on her platform of women's rights with a strong anti-Trump sentiment. Later in October, when Vice President Biden campaigned for Clinton at Marywood-University, McGinty again joined him on stage, alongside Scranton local Senator Bob Casey. Introducing the 3, Congressman Matt Cartwright noted the fact that, upon election, Katie McGinty would be the first female senator from Pennsylvania. McGinty focused on criticizing Trump, pointing to his controversial Trump University. She said that Trump has spent his career stepping on and defrauding good, innocent people.
Well, with the unprecedented and at times outrageous circumstances of the presidential election, many Republican politicians are concerned with Donald Trump's impact on local elections. Many GOP candidates worry Trump's presence atop the ticket will overshadow the state and local races and even press voters to cross party lines. Republicans also worry about voter turnout, as many traditional conservatives are put off from numerous Donald Trump controversies.
Well, despite a rocky primary season, a number of Republican politicians have decided to stand behind their party's candidate. House Speaker Paul Ryan and Trump had previously feuded, and Ryan's support of the candidate flip-flopped after sexual assault allegations against Trump and the now infamous NBC tape surfaced. Trump's former opponent Ted Cruz officially endorsed Trump in late September, citing his commitment to supporting the Republican candidate, which he made last year. Cruz was criticized in July when he spoke at the Republican National Convention, where he refused to endorse Donald Trump, telling voters to, quote, vote their conscience, unquote. Most recently, Cruz has been on the campaign trail for Trump, where he has refused to use the GOP candidate's name in speeches.
The current Pennsylvania Senate race is officially the most expensive in the United States. McGinty and Toomey's respective campaigns have spent $31 million in combination with the $87 million that came from outside groups. The total $118.5 million spending in the Pennsylvania race beats the record set by the North Carolina race in 2014. Both candidates have been very active on the internet, television, and radio, with some positive ads, but also plenty of unfavorable ads against their opponent. Well, stay tuned. We'll be right back after this short break.
Of all the things you've done with your bike, donating it to Goodwill may be the most incredible of all. Your donations help fund job placement and training for people in your community, which means your stuff can be more powerful than you think. Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does.
And like that, you're a job creator.
Every day across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back to TVM-News 2016 election coverage. We'll be with you throughout the night providing the latest updates as polls close across the country. Although throughout the elections, Hillary Clinton has remained consistently ahead of Donald Trump in the national polling, as of yesterday, the race was still very close in most battleground states. According to Politico, 6 major national polls released yesterday show Clinton with a lead ranging between 3 and 6 points, which is a more significant advantage than President Obama had in his 2012 re-election campaign.
While it is entirely unlikely that a third-party candidate will take this election, independent candidate Evan McMillan has started to make headlines recently. McMillan, a member of the Mormon Church and native to Utah, could possibly win Utah in this election. The Emerson College Polling Society reports that McMillan is polling at 28% in the state, while Clinton polls at 20% and Trump 40%. However, most national polling statistics and candidate matchups have been leaving McMillan out.
Both national and state surveys show larger than usual percentages of voters undecided or siding with third-party candidates. With this, the odds of an unpredictable result are increased. On Monday, about 15% of American electorate was not yet committed to Clinton or Trump. That's compared to 5% of undecided voters during the 2012 between Governor Mitt Romney and President Obama. According to Monday's polls on 538 Politics, the fewest numbers of undecided voters were in Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Nevada. In these states, both parties have strong bases, and voters are split heavily along racial, religious, and educational lines. Turnout will ultimately decide the fate of these states, as both Clinton and Trump campaigned persistently in these areas, encouraging voters that their vote is incredibly important. To see other people's views on the candidates, TVM's Daniel Smith asked both Marywood and Washington, D.C. community members for their thoughts on the election.
With the election down to Trump and Clinton, we asked members of the Marywood community what they thought about the candidates.
Well, I think it's very interesting. It's certainly a lot more fun than previous elections. I mean, it's my first election that I'm voting in, but I've sort of been aware of political elections in the past, and I think this one's just more interesting.
People who have been keeping up with the debates have been seeing a lot of controversy, a lot of childish fighting. So, it's interesting. So it'll be interesting to see what these candidates bring to the table as far as when they become president or if they become president.
It's a very petty election. It's not even much about like politics and the issues in our country. It's more about so-and-so committed this crime and said this when he didn't think anyone was recording him.
It's tough that this is what we are down to. I can't believe that there's in this whole country. Well, I know there are better people to be running, but well, it's like this every election, though, too. I think everybody says that.
To see if the members of the Marywood community's thoughts reflected the general public, we went to Washington, D.C. to ask the same questions.
It's like picking between gonorrhea or syphilis.
Probably one of the craziest elections I've seen in my whole life.
Everybody was thinking Hillary was on the front road as the election had been coming, and during the last weeks, a little bit things changed. So I think it's been surprising, but I think it's been because of the way Trump has worked with his team around the elections.
Pretty sad state of affairs, I'd say. I don't think most people want either one of them.
A lot of the people here are very confused about the election. They don't really know what they're voting for because they don't really know the arguments, like the real arguments.
I really am bothered by the fact that we're not, major issues are not being addressed.
It's a sort of a sad state for our country to see where we are with the type of candidates that we have in the leading the field, but you know, America works and we'll work through it and we'll come to the other side, and just a lot of prayers and hope for the future.
From Washington, D.C., I'm Daniel Smith for TVM-News.
The 2000 election was a big one for Florida, in which hanging chads and a recount meant that the popular vote was in deliberation for about a month. After Election Day, Al Gore's campaign had called for a recount, but the state was eventually called in favor of George Bush. This year, Floridian voters showed up early to the polls in surprising numbers. As of yesterday, an estimated 2/3 of all of Florida's voters had already cast their ballots, according to the Huffington Post. Experts are saying that Florida will be a key state for Trump to win if he wants to secure the race. However, early voting results show favor leaning towards Secretary Clinton. Florida is one of 5 key states to watch in this election.
Yeah, according to NPR, the 5 key states to watch tonight are Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. If Trump wins 3 of these 5 states, this is an early indication that the candidates may remain neck and neck throughout most of the night. If Trump wins 4 of these 5 states, however, Clinton is not in good shape. On the other hand, if Clinton wins 4 of these 5 states, she will almost certainly win the election. Since these states are all in the eastern time zone of the U.S. and the polling places are the first to close, they will be early indications of how this election is going to play out before the rest of the polls close.
Barring any contention, we should know the final results of this election in just a few short hours. Still, let's hear some predictions. CNN estimates that the election will rule in Clinton's favor, with electoral vote counts at 268 to 204 in favor of the Democratic candidate as of yesterday morning. The Huffington Post has ruled a 98% chance win for Clinton and only 1.5 for Trump. The New York Times estimates that Clinton has an 84% chance to Trump's 16.
On Monday, Hillary Clinton continued to lead by a narrow margin in Pennsylvania, while polls also tightened in Michigan. Due to the lack of encouragement among African American voters, President Barack Obama headed to Michigan, where he urged people to protect his legacy. According to NPR, this was a strategic move by the Clinton campaign because there is no early in-person voting in either state. The Clinton campaign on Monday was very confident that both states would go blue.
Donald Trump believes voter fraud could help Clinton win and hurt his chances. In order to combat this, the Trump campaign has asked supporters to act as ballot watchers, going to polls and making sure voter fraud is not committed. Voter fraud is illegal, and one such example of voter fraud is poll intimidation. Many states uphold a Supreme Court-approved campaign-free zone, an area around polling places where any campaign materials are banned, and electioneering inside or around polling locations is illegal. Donald Trump supporters who attend polling places with the intent of swaying voters toward their candidate may in fact be violating these laws. While volunteer election monitors are encouraged, organized groups such as Trump's ballot watchers may step over the line towards intimidation.
The battleground states where the race is a virtual tie, that's where a candidate leads by 3% or less, are Florida, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Colorado, New Hampshire, and Iowa. The other battleground states where Trump has a lead are Ohio and Arizona, while Clinton has a lead in Michigan, Virginia, Wisconsin, Maine, and New Mexico. Ohio moved from a virtual tie to a Trump lead almost overnight. Clinton's loss of voters in the polls started both before and after FBI Director James Comey sent the controversial letter to Congress stating that the Bureau wanted to investigate newly discovered emails. On Sunday, Comey revealed the FBI found no new evidence in the case, and Clinton has struggled to get the numbers back before the election. Now, we do have a live update. According to CNN, Hillary Clinton is projected to win Delaware, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Vermont, and the District of Columbia, D.C. This brings Clinton's total electoral votes to up to 68. Many states are currently too close to call. States like Florida and Connecticut are not yet favoring either candidate. Florida is separated by less than 1% point.
All right, we're going to have to take a short break, but when we come back, we will have more of TVM's 2016 live election broadcast with University President Sister Mary Persico.
Every day across America, Excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
We'd do anything for kids. Yet 1 in 5 children in the U.S. struggle with hunger. Help end childhood hunger near you. Learn how at feedingamerica.org.
They told me a bottle couldn't dream. That I would never become a superhero. But I learned how to fly. Just to come back in a new disguise. And be the hero that I've always wanted to be.
They call me Prince like I'm royalty or something. But the places I've lived ain't no palaces. So I don't need grilled salmon or a new scratching post. Just give me a cardboard box and a can of tuna and we're good. You can even change my name. I'm cool being the kitty formerly known as Prince.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you know,
Welcome back to TVM's 2016 election coverage. With us now is Marywood-University President Sister Mary Persigo. Hi, Sister Mary. How are you doing tonight?
Great. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Great.
So we just want to ask you how you feel about the importance college students play in the election, you know, being knowledgeable in it and participating in voting.
You know, I think it's probably a safe bet to say that college students throughout the country today are most likely more knowledgeable than any other significant population in the country, because you study these things, you talk about them in forums, in your classrooms and on campus and among your friends. And so I think it's very important that you participate in the voting process, because you know what you're talking about and you're able to express your thoughts very clearly to other people. So I think that's one reason. Another reason is that within the next 10 to 20 years, you're going to be the people who are leading this country in industry and business, in healthcare, and all kinds of business and professions. And you need to be the ones who have chosen the leaders for our country. And so it's very important for you to be knowledgeable and for you to vote based on the knowledge and the facts that you have. I think lots of people vote based on feelings and not on facts. And it's important to have those facts so you can be intelligent in your voting.
Yeah, and can you kind of talk to us about the candidates' positions, how that relates to Marywood's Catholic values?
Mm-hmm. You know, that's a real difficult one, because I know right off the bat, many people are going to say that Hillary Clinton, for instance, is not pro-life. And that's strictly against the Catholic social principles of being pro-life. On the other hand, you can't very well say that Donald Trump upholds our values either, because he is someone who has routinely put people down and has been biased and has been prejudiced in his speech and in his actions. And so it's hard to decide, you know, if you're trying to go strictly on religious values, it would really be hard to make a decision. So I think at a time like this, we need to weigh the realities, and we can't vote on one issue. We have to think of a larger picture, because, I hate to say it, but it's almost like picking the lesser of two evils, you know. but I think we can't focus in on one issue and make that the target of our vote. We really have to look at the broader perspective and who would serve the common good to the best advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the lesser of two evils kind of comment has been made a lot throughout this election on both sides from people in both camps. How do you feel about, now we mentioned the religious, Marywood's values, like respect and empowerment and all these things. How do you think the candidates kind of relate to these kind of aspects of our lives?
Well, it would seem that neither one of them has been too respectful, especially in the last couple of months. And it's unfortunate. If I could deviate for a moment, I have friends around the world. I have friends down under, I have friends in Europe. I have friends really in lots of places other than this country, South America. And I have a pretty regular email correspondence with them. And frankly, they're pretty appalled. They look up to us. They always look up to us as Americans to kind of lead the way, take the high road. And we're looked upon as people who give service gratuitously. And they're saying, what's going on? Because they're seeing this lack of respect on the side of both parties, both candidates. So I think neither candidate has been relating to our values, our value of respect very much lately. I do think that Hillary Clinton wants to empower people. I do think she has that in her background, in her history, and in her experience. So I think she relates to that. We've already talked about the Catholic identity thing. And the service thing, a lot has been said about the Clinton Foundation in the negative, but really the kind of service that has been given to people who are sick and who are poor in developing countries because of that foundation has, I think, been a demonstration of service. So you really, as I said before, have to weigh the good with the bad and then kind of take a stab at where you think is the best place to go.
Yeah, and as you were just saying, this election's been unprecedented. It's been outrageous at times.
Yes.
Can you kind of go into depth about the characteristics that you feel are supposed to be in a presidential candidate or president?
Yes. Well, I think a president is supposed to be a leader, someone who has high moral values and who demonstrates them all of the time, who respects people no matter who they are, who listens to people and who knows what their needs are and wants to serve them, who is interested in the common good. I think the common good is very important. And in our country, very often we don't even think about the common good because people are, quite frankly, quite greedy. And it's almost like people are measured by the amount of money they have. How many billionaires we have in our country. But measure the billionaires against the people who go to bed hungry every night. And so I think we really need to think about the common good as leaders. And I think a leader who does that is in my books the kind of a leader that we need. So high moral values, leading by example, charismatic in a positive way, embracing the common good. Those are the things I see as a good leader.
Absolutely.
And can you speak on the significance of having our possible first female president in this race?
Well, I think for me that's a good thing. As a woman myself and as a leader, I think, it's been a long time since we've had this coming. And again, around the world, there have been women leaders in many countries, and they've been quite fine. So I remember when Barack Obama was elected, I was very excited to think that it was our first African-American president. I knew it was a historic moment. Truthfully, I really did not believe that I would live to see the first female president. That could happen tonight, and I'm excited about it. I'm sorry about all those other things that we've been talking about in the past couple of minutes, but I think maybe if we can get beyond this and start coming together and be healed as a nation, that we'll be happy to have a woman president if that's the way it goes tonight.
I agree. I think that as a nation, we should kind of look beyond party lines, and everyone can kind of agree that having, our first female president is a very historic and significant moment.
Absolutely. And yeah, just speaking on Hillary Clinton primarily, how do you think either of the candidates' policies on higher education would affect us in a private college?
I was just reading about that this morning, and I think, for one thing, Donald Trump's thoughts about it have been a little bit vague. I haven't been able to piece together what he's been saying about it. As for Hillary, I think she wants to be able to help us in terms of funding education. I think she'll go in that direction. I think she'll try to figure something out. I'm worried about the Congress and the Senate, and if they will be cooperative with her, because I don't think that would be one of their priorities. So we'll just have to see, in anything that she would want to do, if she were to be elected president, if she's going to have the capacity to do it because of a Republican Congress. For sure, I don't see that changing, and perhaps the continuation of a Republican Senate.
Now, Marywood is a very diverse campus, and we strive for diversity in our student and faculty bases. How do you feel the candidates kind of work towards establishing a diverse community and aiding in a world democracy?
Well, it's funny. I don't so much see that in Donald Trump, although I think he has tried to demonstrate a certain sensitivity to people of, at least lately, to people of diversity. I think Hillary Clinton would probably reach out to people who are poor, people who are of African American, people who are Latinos, and I think she would support the gay and lesbian community. I think she would support a lot of the diversities that haven't been supported by our country up until now. So I think she would work toward that. But I think, again, it would be a long road to hoe.
Absolutely. And what do you think, let's say hypothetically Donald Trump did come into office, what do you think this does for diversity? Do you think it sets us back somewhat, or do you think that the American people will kind of rise to the occasion?
That's the question. I think that's the mystery of the hour. I would just have to wait and see what he would want to do with the information that he has, that he's been given by the people who support him, by the people who surround him. I know that throughout this whole campaign, his campaign people have tried to help him. They had to take away his Twitter account in the last couple of days so he wouldn't get carried away with that. So I think we would have to see a Donald Trump who would listen. And I haven't seen that in him up until now. So that's what he would need to do. He would need to listen to the people who surround him, and he would need to surround himself with people who had good advice for him. I wonder if he can do that. I wonder. But people can surprise us, and you can always be open to that surprise in life. I've seen that happen before. Things I didn't expect to happen happened. So you never know.
I know recently you opened up your own personal Twitter account for the Marywood community and other communities to follow. Do you think after running that for a few months that you have any advice to give to Donald Trump in running a Twitter account as someone who is a significant leader?
Well, every single 140 character message that you put out there stays there. And so if you're going to say something derogatory, if you're going to say something that you're going to write something that you're going to regret, if you're going to write something that's hurtful to somebody else, you just shouldn't do it. I mean, I wrote my first tweet way back in July, and it's still there, so I can see everything that I've written, and I'm very careful not to offend anybody, and I think that would be my advice to him, is it's going to be there forever, so you better be sure that you want to say what you say.
All right, thank you. We're going to have to come back in a little bit after a short
great.
break.
All right.
With more questions for you.
Okay, fine.
But right now we're going to have a live update on election results. We're getting information that Donald Trump has been projected to win the states of Missouri, Oklahoma, and Alabama. These 3 states combined for 26 electoral votes. It's projected that Trump will continue to control the Midwest portion of the country. And we're going to have to toss to a short break right now, but when we come back, more with Sister Mary Persico at Marywood-University. Thank you.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
What this place needs is better graduation rates.
What this place needs is less childhood obesity.
What this place needs is free help with taxes.
What this place needs is healthy breakfast.
What this place needs is fitness programs for kids.
What this place needs is early readers.
What this place needs is mentors for teens.
What this place needs is people to join us. What this place needs is you. To donate or volunteer, go to unitedway.org.
Really? Buzz, what's up, man? You left some leaves burning out here.
Yeah, I just came in just for a second.
Come on, man. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. You could torch the whole neighborhood.
It's a good point there, Smokey.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it. No.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back. We're here with Marywood-University President Sister Mary Persico. Thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We were discussing earlier participation among students, students, just millennials in general. Do you think, being the president of the university, do you see a lot of participation among students?
I actually do. I see the students in the Learning Commons or over in the Fireplace Lounge, and I've spoken to them about the election. I really didn't ask them who they wanted to vote for or anything like that, but they really seem to know a lot about the issues. And those are the people I see every day, but you probably see more people than I do in your classes and on campus and in the dorms and in the residences. What do you think people are interested in this election more so than perhaps in the past?
I definitely think thinking outside of it, because obviously Alex and I and other people in the communications department are kind of involved in it just because of what we're doing here. But I think thinking outside of it, like you said, it's a very different election than any others in the past, and there's a lot of social issues that are at stake at this point that are beyond gun control or health care, which seem like very adult issues, I guess, to a lot of millennials. So yeah, I think just considering it is it's a very different election. There's a lot more participation among younger voters. But
yeah, I agree. I think that as a community, the Marywood campus, we've all kind of done our part. Different departments have had voter registration drives, and today there was an event on campus where the social sciences department had a voter event today. And I think that professors and students alike kind of strive to get the word out there about this election.
So do you think most of the students voted, those who were able to? I saw someone in the post office today trying to get an absentee ballot to Georgia by tonight. I don't think she made it, but she made a valiant effort. But do you think most students who were able to vote, took the advantage of that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. The only thing that concerns me just about this, like we said, it's so different. A lot of people thinking, oh, well, I don't like either candidate, so I'm not going to vote. And yeah, that's the one thing that I think it would be a reason why a lot of people just in general don't vote. I think amongst younger voters, there's definitely more numbers of people voting.
Do you think that if Hillary Clinton should win this election tonight, that young people of your age could get beyond the, doubtfulness of her character? Do you think, or do you think it's always going to be in the back of their minds?
I would certainly hope so.
Yeah.
I would hope we'd have some degree of open-mindedness to move past some of these things.
Yeah, and I think we really need to bring the country together. No matter what happens, we have to figure out a way to. I think we actually need healing. There's a lot of, anger out there and violence that's the result of that anger, and so I do think that young people have the power to do healing better than older people. So I would look to you as people who, because you're so non-judgmental. I know that about millennials in particular. You just, see people for who they are, and you accept them for who they are, and that's what I love that about your generation. And I think that we would have to look to people like you to help us to heal. No matter who wins, actually, because there's such divisiveness going on right now.
Yeah. And if you had to kind of infer, I guess, where that divisiveness comes from, like you said, that hatred, and both campaigns, I won't even just say it's just one side, but where do you think this stems from?
I don't know. I've really struggled with that myself. I think people maybe expected more from the last administration than they got. And I think they expect more from what's to come than they'll get. Because, no matter who's elected, you're not going to wake up on Wednesday morning and everything's going to be better. There's still going to be all the issues that you've talked about, that we've talked about, that the campaign has talked about. And the only way those are going to be better is if we as a country and as a people work together, and if Congress could work together. I think that was one of the reasons that people were so angry, is they felt that the government was broken. So many times in the past 8 years, Barack Obama tried to do something and he was stopped. I mean, the mere fact that they won't let him go ahead with the nominee he has for the Supreme Court, I think is an indication that we're just playing games all the time. I mean, we've gone hundreds of days now without a complete cohort of Supreme Court justices. And I know that's a big issue with the campaign. So I would say one of the things in answer to your question is that people think that the government is the answer to all of their woes. And when they don't get what they need, or if they don't get the job that they want, they blame the government. And also, I think the fact that we've been so bipartisan has really crippled us as a country. Because the way our country, our government is meant to work is a good way, but we just haven't been able to work it recently.
Now, how do you feel that specifically the Catholic community could be affected by this election, and how, on the other hand, the Catholic Church and the Catholic community could have an effect on this election?
It's funny. At times like this, I think the Catholic Church and the Catholic community go in diverse paths. For example, I think about Obamacare, and when that first was passed in 2010, the church was vehemently opposed to it, and yet many people, including, I have to admit, many of the sisters, were in favor of it. And the sisters were in favor of it, and the people were in favor of it because people who weren't insured up until then, millions of people, were now going to have an opportunity to be insured. But the Catholic Church, the hierarchy of the church, the establishment of the church, saw it differently. They kind of looked at the regulations of Obamacare rather than the general effects. So, that question you ask is interesting, because almost always the institutional church diverts from the body of the church at times like this. And, you know, it's the constant effort to get us all back together again. You know, we're just human beings like everybody else.
Absolutely. And even just beyond some of the Catholic issues in this campaign, in this election, sorry, what do you think the biggest issues that are hanging in the balance on who is elected?
Well, I suppose the Supreme Court justice issue is a big one. I suppose the immigrant issue is a very big one. I do wonder what Donald Trump will do with that issue if he is elected. But I think our country was built on the principle that, you know, people are welcome to be part of us, to join us. That's how we are here. You know, we have how many countries represented among our students here. And so I think immigration is going to be a big issue. And I do think healthcare, you know, is going to continue to be a big issue because Donald Trump, you know, repeatedly has said he would repeal Obamacare. And whereas Obamacare has had multiple flaws, I don't think repealing it is the answer. I think fixing it is more the way to go. So it is the issues they've been talking about. It's the issue of immigration, the issue of health care, and the issue of the Supreme Court justices and pro-life. I can't imagine, you know, I'm certainly not for abortion, believe me, but I can't imagine a president trying to reverse Roe v. Wade without having a big hue and cry among the people of our country.
And the candidates definitely differ very strongly on immigration, as you said. Where does the idea of taking in people to help, as in Syrian refugees or Mexican people who want to come to our country to better their lives, especially with the issue of Syrian refugees, the Donald Trump campaign will say that it's not safe to take them, or there's a shutdown of all Muslims. Where does the idea of safety maybe take precedent over humanitarianism, or vice versa?
You know, I think that no matter, you know, what he were to say, should he be elected, there are still going to be people who are going to reach out to refugees and are going to try to protect them. I remember one time being in North Carolina, and in the middle of the night, I went to a cotton gin, and there were refugees working there, and they were in fear of every night of being deported, you know. But the people who took them in protected them, and they knew they were jeopardizing themselves by doing that. And there are stories upon stories upon stories of good people who take care of other people, you know, no matter where they come from, no matter who they are. And I think that would continue, no matter whether or not Donald Trump got elected and put some sort of restrictions on immigrants. I just think it would continue. And we would be in the position to decide where we would stand on that. And I think I know where we would.
Now, do you have any kind of words of advice for someone who might end up disagreeing with the final election results, or someone who might be scared of any final election results?
Well, I just think that we need to be reasonable no matter who wins tonight. And we need to just take a deep breath and sit back and let the governmental process take its course and see what happens. I think we should resist any type of violence. I think we should resist any type of retribution or vindication. There's no point in doing that. So I just would, you know, my advice would be, let's just sit tight, let this play its course and see where it's going to take us. And we just have to hope that some reasonable minds prevail.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Sister Mary Persico. Thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me. It was great to be with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we do have a live election update. According to CNN, the battleground states of North Carolina, Florida, and Ohio are still too early to call. Hillary Clinton leads in North Carolina by less than 2 percentage points, while Donald Trump is ahead in Ohio by less than 1 percentage point and by less than 2 percentage points in Florida, with 91% of the vote counted in that state.
We are just passing the 9 o'clock hour, and polls in 14 more states have just closed. CNN is now projecting that Clinton will win in New York. We're going to have to take a short break, but when we come back, more of TVM's 2016 election coverage. Thank you and stay tuned.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it. No.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early. You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
So, Maddie, congrats on paying off all those student loans.
Finally, right?
How'd you manage that anyway?
I started tracking my spending, changed a couple of habits.
Oh, I'm kind of living paycheck to paycheck right now.
I don't even know how I'm doing it. Well, have you tried saving a little?
I want to, but where's that money gonna come from? Bill collectors, they're the worst. Am I right?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
Checking your fantasy league?
Nah, just my 401k statement.
Nice. Where'd you find the money for that?
I just been saving a little every month.
I can't seem to save anything.
Well, what about all this? What about the money you're spending?
What money? It's gone before I can get my hands on it.
You got a pizza for a Todd?
Hey, can somebody spot me?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind.
It's 547.
Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
I dare you. I dare you to change the world. Yeah, you.
Welcome back to TVM's 2016 election coverage. We're here with Mr. Yuridine Lucas. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Sure, thank you for having me.
So we want to ask you just some background on yourself before we get started here.
Okay. Well, I am a PhD student here at Marywood in my second year in the Human Development Program. Originally come from Philadelphia, where I was born and raised. Moved to Scranton last year.
Okay. So how do you see the election kind of affecting Philadelphia as a key battleground for both candidates?
I mean, I definitely see the election affecting Philadelphia in several ways, economically, in terms of education, in terms of just, Philadelphia is a city that's sort of like a melting pot city, and so sometimes there can be divisions based on politics, economics, and things like that. So I definitely think the election will affect Philadelphia.
And as you said, like the melting pot idea, that's what America was built on. And
Sure.
What is this negative rhetoric in both campaigns, I guess one side of the campaigns, what do you think that's doing to the feeling of unity in America?
I definitely don't think that it's a good thing for unity. Any type of language that's around dissension of people based on, whatever differences are, I don't think is a good thing for unity. I think there should be language that's uplifting unity, that's making people feel more connected. I mean, there's a lot going on in the media today that, in a lot of different states around the country that can already, divide people. So I don't think that, our politicians or people who are in elected offices should be helping that. I think they should be helping it in towards the other direction. So.
Do you think that this election from either candidate's side, Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, could sort of undo any of the progress that has been made in the last 8 years?
I definitely think some of the ideas from the Trump campaign in terms of healthcare, in terms of education, in terms of a lot of the things that are going on in the media today with policing and things like that. Like, I definitely think some of the ideas that I've heard come from Mr. Trump would definitely undo some of the progress that's been made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we just came out of 2 terms with our first African-American president.
Yes.
We have a female president running, a female candidate running.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we seem more divided than ever. Why do you think this is?
I think in my opinion, I think initially the campaign, both sides of the campaign have been focusing more on the campaign and more on the candidates themselves than the issues. And so I think that, you know, in the beginning, I think that was problematic for a lot of reasons. That was the people weren't feeling like they had their voices heard and things like that. And the issues that the candidates were talking about really didn't hit home with a lot of people. I mean, foreign policy is important, definitely important, but I think talking about issues that sort of resonate with people more, like education, economy, things like that, those are issues that I think speak to the people more. So.
Now, do you think that either candidate sort of appeals to a wide range of voters? One of them, you know, do you think Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton has done a better job of this?
In my opinion, I think that Hillary Clinton's done a better job of appealing to a wider variety of voters.
Do you think that her campaign is more, less of a divided campaign, like putting people in different groups and stuff like that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
All right.
And as you talked about the importance of some issues earlier, can you kind of talk more about, I guess, the issues that you find of extreme importance?
Well, for me, you know, being a student, education is very important for me. Also, me being a black man in America, you know, policing reform and things like that are very important. I've had, you know, I don't want to go on record as saying anything against the police because I know they have a really hard job to do. I have police officers in my family, but, you know, I've seen both sides of the coin, so to speak, or both sides of the fence. You know, I've been stopped by police for no apparent reason, but I've also been helped by police. So I've seen both sides.
Do you think that the Donald Trump campaign kind of plays into that negative viewpoint that police supporters kind of might have about minority people in the country that has been kind of built up in the last few years, you know, with Ferguson and all the different issues going on? Yeah,
I definitely think that some of the rhetoric that Mr. Trump speaks to definitely fuels the fire, so to speak, of racial division in this country. You know, when you talk about building barriers between people and between states and things like that, that doesn't speak to unity, that doesn't speak to what America was founded on, in my opinion.
And so let's say I asked a similar question to the Marywood president, Sister Mary Persico. If Trump were to be elected as president, let's say tonight we find that out, do you think the American people will rise to the occasion, or do you think that it'll cause such divide amongst all of us?
I mean, I think that's a good question. I think, I mean, I definitely have faith in the American people. I mean, I guess I'm going to say it. So we've dealt with worse than Donald Trump in this country, and I think we've come out on top. So I definitely think that Americans will rise, no matter who's in power. I mean, the person who's in the White House is definitely a figure and definitely a force for the country, a symbol for the country. But in the end, it's the people, and it's what we do every day with each other that matters. So no matter what happens, no matter which candidate wins, I don't think America will ever lose that.
Now, Hillary Clinton has gone on the record in the past, some of her viewpoints on minority groups, the LGBTQ community, and in the 90s there was a tape that has surfaced recently in this campaign about a comment she made about young African-American men in the city. Do you think she's done a good job in this campaign recently of kind of backtracking and kind of fixing what she's done? How do you think she's handled it?
I mean, I think she's done a better job. I actually didn't watch the earlier debates, but the last three presidential debates, candidate debates I did watch, and so I felt like she sort of won me over, so to speak, a little bit more than she did in the past. Does that mean that she's totally, you know, rectified whatever the statement was and things like that? I really don't want to speak to that, but I think that overall, I felt more comfortable with her as of late than I did earlier in the campaign. So.
Do you think there was...
Sorry. Go ahead.
Do you think there was ever a point where you might have leaned towards one side or the other?
No.
No?
I think I either would have voted for Senator Clinton or I wouldn't have voted at all. So.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot definitely about the issues of the Trump campaign. Are there any issues you find with Hillary Clinton's campaign at all? Things that you think she did very well, things you think that she could have done better? Sorry.
I think she could have done a better job of early on doing some of the things that she did later in the campaign, like talking about unity, talking about a clear-cut plan that she was going to have for education reform, for things like that. I definitely found her views and found her her speeches to be more enlightening, as I said later on in the campaign. Some of the things I thought that she did well, I mean, obviously she's been a first lady, she's been a Secretary of State, she's been a U.S. Senator, so she has the experience. I mean, Mr. Trump kept alluding to her 30 years in office, and she's able to really lay out some of the big heavy-hitting items that she accomplished in those 30 years. And I mean, I personally would rather have someone sitting across the table negotiating on behalf of America that had more experience in those areas. So I definitely think foreign policy, things like that, I think she shines in those areas.
Mm-hmm. Now, being from Philadelphia and now seeing the debate or the election kind of run its course here in Scranton, do you see any difference between these two cities, one of them being bigger and then Scranton's a little bit smaller, and the economic kind of environment in each? Do you see it as any kind of difference? What have you seen there?
I mean, I think in this area there are a lot more Trump supporters than there are in the Philadelphia area. I mean, I know I can't really compare it to the size, but I think overall, my network in Philadelphia is pretty big, and so I generally know the sort of like the ebb and flow of the city, so to speak. So I think there's a lot more Trump support in this area for whatever reason than there is in Philadelphia. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've seen.
Yeah, and a lot of people praise Donald Trump for his lack of political correctness and kind of dismiss a lot of the derogatory comments made towards general races of people, towards women. What do you say to a Trump supporter that says something like that, that says, well, he has a better idea for America, but just dismisses these things that he said about people?
I mean, I think when you're talking about the office of the president, I think that's a leader among leaders. And so there's a certain skill set, there's a certain quality, certain characteristics that you look for in a person like who's running the office of the United States. And to just dismiss some of the things that Mr. Trump says, I think would be a big mistake. It's not that Hillary Clinton is the best candidate in the world, but I feel like she's exhibited more poise, more presidential characteristics, more, and maybe that comes with experience, but I feel like Mr. Trump has also had a lot of experience, maybe not in politics, but, I would be remiss if I said just dismiss some of the things that he said or done. So.
Have you followed any of the third-party campaigns in this election?
Not really. Yeah.
What about any of the candidates who might not have made it past the primary season?
I have not, honestly.
No.
Yeah.
Nothing about Bernie Sanders.
Very little. I mean, I know that once after the Democratic convention, I know that Bernie Sanders had a lot of good things to say about Senator Clinton and her judgment, her leadership. And I mean, I think in the beginning, when they're all running, they're gonna do their best to win. But I think once you pass a certain point, I think it shows a lot of courage and a lot of conviction to your party to get behind the candidate. So. Yeah,
and I guess if you had to envision what the ideal characteristics of a president would be, what would you say the main thing should be?
Someone who knows how to listen, who knows how to listen to all of the issues that are out there, but also knows how to make executive decisions when they need to be. Someone who has experience in the areas that they're talking about, like Senator Clinton talks about education, she talks about child welfare, she talks about all these, she's done, for better or worse, she's done these things and she's been in the thick of it, in multiple roles. So I think, knowing your people, knowing how to be a leader. I think empathy, I think there's a lot that goes into it, but I think ultimately as a president, you have to know how to navigate through all of those skills and find the right one that fits the right situation.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, Mr. Yard and Lucas, thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We do have a live election update. According to CNN, Donald Trump is projected to win Kansas, Arkansas, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, 3 out of the 5 districts in Nebraska, and Texas. This brings Trump's electoral vote count to 128, and Clinton remains at 97. Key states like Florida and Ohio are also too close to call.
We're going to have to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll be talking with Marywood Associate Professor of Philosophy, Dr. John DePoe. Stay tuned.
What are you, superheroes?
Just 4 brothers who hate bullies and love this city.
Open up your books to page 360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
About inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at getschool.com.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Nature can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
I spy something beginning with S.
Snow?
No.
Snow-covered trees.
Nothing to do with snow.
Head outside to discover incredible animals and beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure.
Wow.
So grab your loved ones.
Don't even.
And explore a world of possibilities.
Come on, this way.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you.
Welcome back to TVM's 2016 election coverage. We'll be broadcasting throughout the night as polls close and results come in to determine the next president of the United States. Here with us now is Marywood Associate Professor of Philosophy, Dr. John DePoe. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How's it going?
Pretty good.
So yeah, in the past, a lot of presidential candidates have really talked about their religious beliefs. And there's really been a lack of that. I mean, Donald Trump has talked about some religious beliefs. His running mate obviously has, but Hillary Clinton hasn't. Why do you think this is?
That's a good question. I think that for Hillary, that religion is sort of a tough issue with some of her base, not all of it, of course, but that there's some concerns about people bringing their religious beliefs too much to bear on their political decision-making, their policy. And I think that maybe for her, for the base that she's trying to reach out for, that's not going to be a strength for her. I think that it's been a liability because for someone like Trump, the Republican base has historically liked that idea, and it's really hurt him that he hasn't had that kind of authentic faith where he can say, like George W. Bush did, where he prays earnestly before making serious decisions, and how his faith informs the major decisions that he'll make as a president. I think that for a lot of the traditional folks that would have voted for George W. Bush are not seeing that in Trump, and that's a serious problem in getting the vote out with that group.
Absolutely, and since, as you said, a lot of Hillary Clinton's base is not really driven by religion, I guess the outcome of this election will show how important religion is. Can you kind of talk about that just as a nation? Is religion kind of becoming less relevant?
That's interesting to think about. I certainly think that we're seeing shifts in the way we're thinking about God and about, maybe the better word is spirituality. What we see is not so much a rise in atheism or the loss of entirely belief in God and the supernatural, but really a step away from institutionalized religion. And this is happening at all age groups. In some recent surveys I've looked at, this is happening across the board, even in all the older age group as well, but the most significant break is with millennials, and we're seeing a deep divide there where millennials are leaving the church and other institutions of religion in large numbers, but like I said, they're not becoming by and large atheists. There's this other spiritual element. And I think that maybe this once again is fitting with somebody like Hillary, who's not going to wear her religion on her sleeve. And I think that when you look at the politics of old, that I would never. Candidates who would come out and want to say something explicitly about their faith and their religion and being very public about that is not quite the same kind of private spirituality that we're seeing on the rise more.
Absolutely, and there's obviously a lot of ethical issues in this election. Can you kind of talk about Donald Trump's business dealings, Hillary Clinton's emails? What does this show about ethics?
Yeah, politics and ethics, where to start? Gosh, there's a lot to be said there. I think that one of the things that's really telling is that this election is about the candidate we like the least. That whoever is most disliked will lose, as opposed to the one who we like the most. And one of the things that's driving that are ethical issues. There's just so many, it's hard to know where to begin. Like with Hillary, one of the things that's been in the news has been the email scandal. There have been issues not just with the legality of that, which is, of course, I think still a matter of some great debate. But there are also issues with just the ethics of how has she handled that. What did she say initially about this, and what was uncovered later, that she initially had said there were no classified emails and that it was not a big deal. And it turned out there were, several hundred, maybe over 1,000 classified emails sent. With Donald Trump, I mean, the list is very long. The biggest one that stands out is, the tape that came out recently with what he was saying about women and it's just horrific. As a father with 2 daughters, I cannot imagine calling such talk locker room talk. It's just disgusting and filthy, and I can't imagine any leader of any organization being able to be a leader having those comments made public. Yeah. There are issues that when we look at these kinds of things about trust, about respect, one of the great ironies is that Melania Trump has said that if she would become First Lady, the cause that she would take up would be cyberbullying. And she's married to one of probably the most well-known cyber bullies that we know. So I think that the ethical issues that we're seeing here are very deep. They're very entangling, I think, for both sides as well. I wouldn't want to be the referee who has to decide which one is more unethical, that we are really seeing very deep ethical problems on both ends of this.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is going to kind of stray from, your history as a philosophy professor and that kind of background, but you did mention you're a parent of 2 girls, and how do you think that these presidential candidates kind of add up as role models for children, and kind of from a parental view, how they kind of stack up?
I think that my initial reaction is to say that Donald Trump is somebody I do not think that my children could look up to and admire and emulate. That would be, as a parent, that would be a horrific state of affairs for me. On the other hand, I think that I'm not really sure that I'm impressed with Hillary Clinton as a role model either. There are certain things that I think are encouraging, at least on that end, that as a woman achieving high office, I think that does send a kind of message and an example just in and of itself that my daughters can look up to and admire. But I think that in the end, I would ideally have liked a woman of a stronger moral standing, of a different character, to have been the first one to set that. But in any case, I think that one of the most effective ads I think I've seen against Donald Trump has been on this front, saying, look at the things this man has done and the example that he has set, making fun of people that are disabled. These are just, once again, just terrible things that I couldn't imagine somebody doing in private, but he's done these things publicly. It's just disgraceful and very shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, yeah, do you find any of these ethical dilemmas for both candidates, do you find them redeemable at all? I mean, let's say there was some very ethical, questionable ethics among one candidate, but they just had fantastic policy towards certain things. Do you think that takes precedent over the controversy?
I think that the details matter. The details really do matter. Because when we talk about character, when it comes to being president, we need to have somebody who's not only going to be honest with the people that the president represents, but somebody who is able to make deals with Congress and other constituencies where they can believe what they say. We need to be able to have a leader that will meet and be able to look at world leaders eye to eye and talk about things, and once again, where they will be believed. Having somebody that's a known liar or that is untrustworthy in other ways or seen as having other weaknesses and liabilities in character, I think ultimately is a weakness and a liability for the United States as a whole. So somebody who's got a lot of cool policy ideas, who is a really, can dream up, and there are lots of people like this that have really interesting and new ways to approach difficult issues, that's great. But if you don't have the person in place who can get it done, all the good ideas in the world aren't going to help us. We need to find, I would, of course, ideally like somebody that has it all, somebody that has the right ideas, but also the right character, the right means to get it accomplished, to get it done. I can't help but plug the idea that Plato had about the idea that our leaders should be philosopher kings. Now, he wasn't so hot on democracy, so maybe we could, take him to task on that. But he did think that our leaders should be philosophers in this inclusive sense, which is the thinker, but also in Plato's sense, this would have been the ideal moral person as well, a person who is rich in character and virtuous, both in mind and in action.
All right, so how do you feel that these candidates kind of have given kind of a look at philosophy of politics in the past, how they kind of work that into their campaigns and how that kind of works for them? I guess what I'm saying is, Hobbes and Locke, kind of the political philosophers of our founding fathers' time, and politicians throughout the years, how these candidates kind of work into that kind of story and history of that.
Well, I think probably neither one, I doubt, is really thinking of it on that level. Maybe, and I think Trump, I'm really not sure that he is thinking of it at all in any, of any kind of depth. But they do kind of both paint a different kind of story. I think that Trump represents a kind of what we call populism, this idea of this nativism, trying to defend a very narrow view of America. Let's close our borders, let's defend whatever he envisions as our way of life, that it's a very much, a protectionist way. I mean, his ideas about the economy and trade are also very protectionist in this sense. What I see from Hillary is a much more inclusive and open view about the nation. Somebody who is willing to have more of a friendly policy with other nations, with immigration. And I think that there is a lot more reflection and a lot more careful thought for her, at least in that respect. But I don't know. You mentioned Hobbes. Maybe Trump would see himself as the Leviathan, this powerful, all-powerful leader that we should hand everything over to fix all of our problems. Yeah. So I would say that maybe at best that's what we could see from them.
Yeah. If you had to predict, I guess, the way the future is going, would you say that it's going in more of a closed-minded, closed-off view like you said was for Trump's, or do you think that we're going towards a more progressive, open, accepting future?
In some ways, I think it's both. It's really interesting to look at the way, in particular, that social media and millennials are changing the way that we are thinking about politics and what's going to happen. I would say even in the next election cycle in 4 years, I think we can't even predict how things are going to go there, how the media is going to be used, and how we're going to be engaging in these kinds of political debates. But I do think that there are a couple of observations that I've had personally. I don't have any professional knowledge of these sorts of things, but just in my own experience, it seems like with the internet, for instance, and social media and the way this works, there are sort of two dangers. On the one hand, well, this one isn't a danger. On the one hand, there's something good, which is we have unfettered access to information, and that is a good thing. That we are not held hostage to like 3 major networks who are essentially giving the same message. and we're not beholden to tune in at 6 p.m. To get that information. We can get information readily, multiple different sources and perspectives, and at many different times. That's good. The problem with social media is that we can be very selective in the way we access that information. We can make all of our friends that we follow on Facebook, the Twitter feeds we subscribe to, can all be people that more or less are saying the same thing we believe already. It can turn into an echo chamber where we end up going deeper and deeper entrenched in what we believe. And without really listening to the other side, we get to a point where we're unable to hear other perspectives. And so I think that it depends on us what happens. It's up to us, what kind of people will we be? Are we going to become people that will only listen to our point of view and we get to where we're just reluctant to even hear the other side? Or are we going to really use all the access and all the information we have? One of the funny things I see is that we can share information on Facebook, and sometimes people share erroneous and bad information that could be fixed with just a simple search, but we'd rather not do that. We just see, oh, somebody shared a picture with these numbers and a quote on it, so it must be true. Let's hope that we can learn how to use all this unfettered access and all the information at our fingertips in a more responsible way.
All right, we have one more question for you tonight. How do you feel that these two candidates have kind of worked to kind of play to a mentality that people have based on how they want their leaders to be and the things that they really care about? Do you think that the public kind of has this preconceived notion of what the president should be, and that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton have kind of played into that at all?
I think that what we see with Trump is him really trying to play into this idea of the president needs to be a strong man who's going to take care of things. I think that has been the image he's really projected. There's a sense in which that's an expected image for the president too. And I think he's really tried to pit that against Hillary. It's been a harder road for Hillary Clinton because she maybe isn't as a woman, it's an uphill battle that she won't have the same, she won't be able to be to project that idea of a strong protector, a person who we think of as in control. We tend to think of that CEO who's managing the boardroom as the older man that looks a lot like Donald Trump. And that's kind of the image we want to have of the president that's been fixed for us. But I think that what Hillary has done, to some extent, has tried to show that she is capable of being the tough person. In the debates, this was one of the things I saw from her, was real strength in a traditional, almost masculine kind of way, that she could slug it out and hold arguments and hold her own and win in those kinds of circumstances. And I think that's been her trying to project to the American people that she can satisfy even these kind of stereotypes. My hope is that if Hillary wins, as it looks like she probably will, that we're able to get a different kind of, hopefully a shifting image of what it means to be president. That being president isn't a masculine thing, but that we can see even strengths of a feminine side, a maternal side to a president. And I hope that that's a good thing for our nation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, John DePoe, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, great discussion that we had. Well, we do have another live election update. According to CNN, Donald Trump is projected to win Kansas, Arkansas, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, 3 out of the 5 districts in Nebraska and Texas. This brings Trump's electoral vote count to 128, and Clinton jumps to 104 with a win in Connecticut. Key states like Florida and Ohio are still too close to call. And our segment is brought to you by Grande Pizza. Make sure you stay with us. We'll be right back after the break.